been frozen out.
Facing an extinction level event.
We don't fight this fight right now, you're not going to have black-owned media. All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered. So you've constantly heard me talk about on this show how critically important black-owned media is, how critically important the resources that for black-owned media, how these things absolutely matter. And one of the things that we've seen how some companies have stepped up when we in the Black-Owned Media Collective began to make these issues known in the wake of the death of George Floyd. And just so you can understand when I talk about how significant this is and how this has been going on for quite some time. John H. Johnson and the leaders of Essence Magazine, they were talking about this stuff 30, 40 years ago. In fact, 23 years ago, when the New York Times did a story on the sale of BET, I want you to read this here. Okay, go to my iPad. It says, this is dealing with BET and Viacom. The two companies are betting they will be able to increase the advertiser revenue at Black entertainment television, which reaches 62.4 million homes. But where, in Mr. Karmazin's view, as Meryl Karmazin, who was the then CEO of Viacom, the network has had a tough time getting the ad revenue that its audience merits. Blacks represent 13% of the population, but capture just 1% of advertising spending, according to Christopher Dixon, USB Warburg's entertainment and media analyst. Now, Mr. Karmazin said the sales staff could say to advertisers, how can you justify these lower rates other than discrimination? And obviously, you don't want to discriminate. BET has been getting its prices up, but we think we can accelerate the process. Now, if you read Brett Pulley's book, BET and the $1 Billion Bet, the unauthorized biography of Bob Johnson and BET, you read that particular book, he writes in that book that BET was getting, when it was black-owned, it was getting $1,500 for a 30-second ad. When it was, and what MTV was getting was $8,000 for the same 30-second ad. That's what Mel Karmazin was talking about. And he was like, when Mel Karmazin and Sumner Redstone saw what BET was getting, they were shocked. They were trying to figure out, how is BET a similar size of a company with MTV, yet MTV was getting $8,000 and BET was getting $1,500. My frat brother Todd Brown, who worked at Ebony, it talked about how Ebony was getting $20,000 for a full-page ad, yet Esquire, a smaller magazine, was getting upwards of $200,000 for the exact same ad. And so I'm talking about even these black-owned media companies, how we may actually get some advertising, but then what then happens when we don't get any advertising? So even when we do get the advertising, we're actually getting less money than white media. So when a lot of y'all out here talk about, man, we need black media for this, and we need black media for that, we need black-owned media doing this and doing that, this is real simple. We can't do any of that because we can't hire the additional people, because we don't have the additional revenue to hire the additional people. Then what the ad agencies and the brands then do, oh, you can't reach more people. Well, guess what? I can't reach more people because I can't market myself and take out billboards and digital ads and sponsor events because I have smaller revenue. Do y'all understand how this particular game is played? And so what then happens is, same companies, though, greatly depend upon African Americans buying a lot of their products. And so when we were talking about these issues, we were talking about, again, what's being done. And I remember, because I saw some Pepsi ads, I think it was in the BET Awards. This is 2021. So what happened was I sent this tweet to one of the black board members at PepsiCo. Darren Walker is the president of the Ford Foundation. Great brother who's doing some amazing things there. And so here's the tweet. I said, hey, Darren Walker, would love to connect with you to discuss PepsiCo, because he's also on the boards of Square and Ralph Lauren, and their commitment to spending money with black-owned companies, especially black-owned media. Please drop me a DM. Never heard from Darren. I also sent Darren an email today saying I was going to be doing this segment. And again, Darren's a good brother. But here's what happened. I got an email immediately from John Banner. John Banner worked at PepsiCo. John is now over at McDonald's. We had a great conversation. John hit me up, and John wanted to facilitate a meeting. And so we did that meeting, and again, I'm going back in my emails here, and I'm checking to see. And in fact, so the email, don't show it, so the email went out on July 13th. And he said, I hope my email finds you well, safe and healthy. If I may, I wanted to follow up on your tweet below. Would you have time to connect? Sure. So we did that. And so we connected, we got on email, and then what ended up happening was we then did a meeting. And in that particular meeting, we met with a number of different people. Derek Lewis, who was the then head of multicultural for PepsiCo, Christina Tyson, who supplied diversity for PepsiCo, John Banner, the head of sports. I believe the head of their foundation was on there as well, which I never understand. So let me just go ahead and say this as a side note, and I want y'all to understand something. We are a media company. I have New Vision Media. Under New Vision Media, I have Roland Martin Unfiltered. It's a separate company. Black Star Network is a separate company. This is a media company. I don't have a 501c3. But let me tell you what often happens with black-owned media. When we do these meetings, in the meeting, they'll have the foundation person or the diversity person. When they meet with Disney and Comcast, the foundation person ain't there. The DEI person not there. Do you know who's there? The chief marketing officer. Do you know who's there? The chief investment officer of the ad agency that represents them. That's who in the meeting. But what happens is black-owned media, we are treated like we're just this different animal as opposed to treating us like a media company. So, okay, so we took the meeting. So we began to have conversations, and so we had this conversation. Again, it's a great conversation. And so as I look at my emails that went through, there were some meeting requests that went through as well. In fact, I remember as I'm scrolling through, I believe we had a meeting that was in October of that year, and it was with some different folks. And I remember John said, Roland, thanks so much for following up. Hope all is well. We would very much like to connect with you and your team to discuss our efforts to support the black community and specifically black-owned media. Susan will work to gather the correct members of the PepsiCo team. Let us know who she should coordinate with. Many thanks and looking forward. So we did that. We chatted with them, did all sort of things, and then we actually had the meeting. So then we had the meetings. Okay, so then all of a sudden, those things happen. Then nothing happens. So now understand, Urban Edge Networks, Hardy Pelt, Todd Brown, they handle third-party sales for us. And so they began to work on an initiative because they began to acquire some rights of various games with HBCUs. And so they began to talk to a variety of people, General Motors, P&G, PepsiCo, things along those lines. Well, they're embroiled in a lawsuit right now with the SWAT over that very issue. And in that particular lawsuit, I'm just going to pull it up here. This is I'm just going to show you the top of the lawsuit. So this right here, go to my iPad, is the lawsuit where they are suing Weber Marketing and Consulting and the Southwestern Athletic Conference and Charles McClellan, who was the commissioner. This is the Urban Edge Network. Now, in this particular lawsuit, they're suing them, claiming tortious interference because of some things that they allege the SWAC did, and Weber Marketing did. But I just want you to see this here. Go to my iPad. It says right here, number 36 on page 12. Within the last year, UEN instituted an oral agreement with Pepsico through direct communications and negotiations with Christina Tyson, Director, Supplier Diversity, Global Procurement, located in Dallas, Texas. Pepsico agreed to start advertising during HBCU games on UEN's streaming channel. Scott Finlow, Global CMO Food Service at PepsiCo, said the $50 million PepsiCo has put towards black-owned businesses over 5 years as a part of our company's larger commitment of over $400 million towards advancing racial equity, racial equality within the company, industry, and communities we serve. Based on negotiations between the parties, UEN expected to be a significant part of PepsiCo's growth initiatives. Full stop. Come to me now. Now, you see here he says PepsiCo, the $50 million PepsiCo has put towards black-owned businesses over 5 years. Okay, y'all, $50 million over 5 years. That comes out to be $10 million a year. Now, I'm going to show you something here that's going to blow you away. I need you to understand, because see, some of y'all who are watching right now, y'all are going, oh my God, that's amazing. That's wonderful. Go to my iPad. This right here is the close of business today of PepsiCo's stock. PepsiCo closed at $168.91 for their stock. I want you to see something right here. It's called MKT cap. See what that MKT cap, folks? That's called market cap. That means that PepsiCo as a company, its market cap is $232.52 billion. Let me say that again. It's $232.52 billion. 10% of that represents 232 million. 10% of that represents 23 million. You keep going down, the numbers get smaller and smaller. So when you talk about PepsiCo want to commit $50 million to black-owned businesses over 5 years, we ain't talking about a lot of money. Now, some of you may be saying, well, okay, Roland, you keep saying PepsiCo. Well, what's all of PepsiCo? PepsiCo is not just Pepsi. Here are the products that are under PepsiCo. Please show it. You see right here, Pepsi, Lay's, Mountain Dew, Doritos, Gatorade, Quaker. So when you go to the store, you're buying PepsiCo products. You see bubbly sparkling water, Ruffles, Cheetos, Mug Root Beer, Brisk, Nuts and Seeds. Keep going. Tostitos, Sierra Mist, Starry, Stacy's, Sobe, Propel. Keep going. Off the Eaten Path, Pastaroni, Pure Leaf, Pure Delicious Simply, Rice-A-Roni, Sun Chips. Keep going. Frito-Lay, Jack Links, The Walking Taco, Al Valle, Aquafina, Aunt Jemima, Baconettes, Bear, Boat 24, Cap'n Crunch, Chester's, Cracker Jack, Dole. Keep going. Driftwell, Evolve, Fritos, Fruit Leaf, Funyuns, Gamesa. Keep going. Grandma's, those are the Grandma's cookies there. Health Warrior, Hilo Life, Life Water, Lipton, Luza, Manzanita Soul, Maui Style, Miss Vicky's, Mother's, Munchies, Munchos, Muscle Milk, NATO Chips, Near East, Ocean Spray, Popcorners, Red Rock Deli, Rockstar, Rolled Gold, Sabritas, Sabritones, Santitas, Neon Zebra. Hope I'm pronouncing those correctly. Let's see here. Nut Harvest, Smart Food, Spitz, Soul Boost, Tazo. They have a deal with Starbucks with some of their coffees. Variety Packs, Yat Chat. Is that it? Now, if I go through that, I'm thinking about those pretzels I bought, Gatorade I bought. I love the love the chili cheese Frito-Lay. I'm thinking of Funyuns. My family love Funyuns. I can go. I eat oatmeal, quick oatmeal. So it's a ton of those products that I bought. It's a ton of those products that black people buy. So now you have to ask the question, all right, PepsiCo, are you spending fair share with African Americans? What's your spending on black-owned media? So earlier, I sent an email to several of the board members. I sent an email to some others as well, because I wanted to know that. And first of all, let me just show you here. So this here is the, I'm going to show you first leadership. So this is the leadership of PepsiCo right here. So you see their chairman and CEO. Go to my iPad. You see the other executives. You see Tina Bagalki, who is the Global Chief Diversity and Equity and Inclusion Officer. And then if I keep going here, and I keep going and keep going and keep going, and then finally, I get to, so hold up, I'm gonna find, what was the name here? Because that was a woman who was the CMO, Jane Walkerly. She's Executive Vice President, Chief Consumer and Marketing Officer. Then I get to the brother, Stephen Williams. He's the Chief Executive Officer, PepsiCo Foods. So of their executive leadership, there's only one African American. All these positions. Okay, I got that. So then I go over here. So then I want to show you their board members, because this is also important. We talk about leadership. We talk about members of the board of directors. These things matter as well, because when we talk about leaders, and so here you go. So you got the chairman of the board. You got Segun Agbaje, is a brother who is with the CEO of Guaranteed Trust Holding Company. He is here. Then you also have Edith W. Cooper, who is the former executive vice president and global head human capital management, Goldman Sachs Group. You got other board members here. Then, of course, you have Darren Walker, who is with the president of the Ford Foundation. I see Cesar Conde. He's right here, chairman of NBC Universal News Group. And so all these people. So I'm showing you that. So they've got representation of African Americans on the board of directors, and that's critically important. It's great to have a CEO in Stephen Williams. That's important as well. But when we talk about African Americans in business, we're not just talking about black folks who are on boards and then black folks who have senior positions. We also are talking about being in the deal flow. We're talking about business being done. We're talking about spending being done. And I can tell you what has transpired over the last 2 years with us specifically has been nothing. Now, I had a call with Christina Tyson, and one of the things we talked about was that, because here's the deal, you had UEN with their lawsuit against them. First of all, Urban Edge Network is third party. They are their own company. I can handle my own sales. So I've done meetings with their ad agency. So I remember it was like a year went by. I was like, yo, I ain't heard from your people. And so all of a sudden we began to have those calls, and those things began to happen. And again, if I sit here and go through my emails here, I see lots of emails back and forth, and we're having this meeting and that meeting. And I'm literally sitting here going, meeting set 9/23, and then I'm sitting here seeing stuff. I'm seeing stuff in January. I remember when that was an issue with the black farmers. We reached out, and PepsiCo got a statement from them. I remember, again, when we had an additional meeting with the PepsiCo folks in April of 2022. So we had that, and then all of a sudden, so it's April of 2022. Then guess what? Nothing was happening. And so then I began to say, okay, fine, what's happening? And so began to reach out to folks, and I began to go through here and different activations and things along those lines. And then I'm looking here at my email here, and that was on November 11th, 2022. That was a meeting I had with, it was an email, Christina Tyson, Katie Hannafy, their media folks, and guess what? We had a meeting set up, and then of course I see November 11th, and then all of a sudden, and then we have, here we go. And so You see right here, if you go to my iPad, it says objective, PepsiCo team to learn about Roland's non-news media opportunities. Come back to me. Why is that important? It's because what often happens is these companies will say, hey, we don't buy news shows. We don't buy news shows, so therefore, we really can't do your show. Well, that's not a problem, because guess what? We've done major deals, 7-figure deals with Coca-Cola. We've done customized content. We've done deals with Procter & Gamble. We've done deals with General Motors. So we've done deals with major companies. So right now, we have a 7-figure deal with McDonald's. So there's no other major, let me be real clear, y'all. You don't get bigger, and we've done stuff with Apple. So we've done customized content deals with Apple, P&G, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, General Motors. 5 of the biggest brands in the world. So there's no excuse. That was November 2022. Well, guess what? Nothing happened. Nothing goes on. I literally said, I remember November 8th, 2022, hey, Christine, it's been 3 months we've seen anything. And then all of a sudden, here we are in November. Like, what's up? January or February 2023, I do a meeting with their people. Again, nothing. I see their folks at Essence. I meet the new brothers of Old Multicultural. He said, hey, we need to get together. You're absolutely right. That was July. Nothing. I see one of their folks at InvestFest in Atlanta. She's like, hey, our people need to get together. Says, hey, guys, you need to get together with Roland. That's in August. Nothing. So here we are in the last quarter of 2023, nothing from PepsiCo. I sent their various executives a question. I sent them emails earlier asking them, and I sent this to their Chief Diversity Officer, CEO of North America Beverage, CEO of North America Packages, as well as their CMO. And I asked them a series of questions. I asked them, and what I wanted to know from them, and this is exactly what I said. I said, what is the annual marketing advertising spend of PepsiCo? Please provide numbers for 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. What is the total black-owned media spend? Do you have an established goal of what you desire to spend with black-owned media, 1%, 2%, 3% or higher? What is the total spend of contracts from PepsiCo? And what is the percentage and dollar amount with black-owned companies? Thanks a bunch. Look forward to hearing from you. Why am I asking all of that? I'm asking all of that because, folks, these companies want black consumers to keep buying their products, but they do not want to then invest in black-owned businesses. I had Mark Morial on here, and we talked about the 5-year, $10 million initiative they had with the PepsiCo Foundation to stand up black restaurants. I absolutely support that. We talked about the initiatives that PepsiCo had trying to drive $100 million in receipts to black-owned businesses over 5 years. I support that, even though they can't track it, and that's coming from one of the members of their advisory committee. But here's the reality. If PepsiCo is spending $3 billion annually on advertising and marketing, and if PepsiCo spends just 5% of their marketing advertising budget with black-owned media, that's $150 million a year. Over 5 years, that's $750 million. So if I compare that comment that was in the UEN lawsuit, if they were trying to spend $50 million over 5, and in the advertising space alone, you could spend $750 million over 5, don't you think that changes the look and the face of black-owned media? Do y'all now see how we are being starved out of business by not being able to get resources? I see ads everywhere. I see ads on mainstream media. I see PepsiCo ads on black targeted media. But what about black-owned media? I reached out to several of my friends in black-owned media. Do y'all know that Butch Graves' dad, they were PepsiCo bottler for about 20 some odd years? They haven't had any PepsiCo advertising in at least a decade. I reached out to my folks at Rolling Out. Munson Steed, nothing. I reached out to Ben Chavis, head of the NNPA, the Black Press of America, advertising, nothing. Shall I go on? I reached out to, so these are black-owned media companies, nothing. Now, PepsiCo does business with Revolt. They got a great deal with them, but this is not about one black-owned company getting advertising. I'm not just concerned about me. Oh, by the way, I dropped by the NABOB, National Association of Black-Owned Broadcasters Convention, ran into The ad folks for Urban One, Radio One, TV One, Pepsico, nothing. So now I'm curious. If it's not Black Enterprise, if it's not Urban One, if it's not NNPA, if it's not Black Star Network, if it's not, who else y'all spending the money with? Because we're not talking about a number of larger Black-owned media companies. When we challenge these companies, when we challenge General Motors, who haven't spent a dime with us 2023, even though I made clear last year I wanted a multi-year commitment, and they not even tell us what they're going to spend in 2024, guess what happened? We found that all these companies were spending 1 or less than 1% with Black-owned media. And because of our pressure, all of a sudden they start making commitments. Oh, we're going to do 2 and 4 and 6 and 8. But had we said nothing, we would still be getting 1%. So if y'all want to know why Black-owned media is small, do you want to know why Black people can't contribute more money to HBCUs? If you want to know why we can't buy our own tables at the NAACP, the National Urban League Convention, you want to know why we can't contribute to Congressman Jim Clyburn's campaign or other CBC members or anybody else? It's because Black-owned media and Black business overall are literally being frozen out of the economic pot in this country. They are feeding us a crumb and trying to convince us it's a meal. Hell, PepsiCo not even feeding us with their chips and their drinks. We literally are getting nothing. And so you as the Black consumer do understand they want you to keep buying their products. They want you to keep spending, but they do not want to spend with Black-owned media. Now, I told PepsiCo, I'm going to give y'all time. I'm going to give y'all time. I think 2.5 years is long enough. And I said, I'm doing this show. We don't get to where we are if Black folks remain quiet. Operation Breadbasket was not about that. Reverend Leon Sullivan was not about that. And I'm telling y'all right now, and let me be real clear, I have absolutely nothing to lose. Because they gave me no money 2 years ago, no money last year, no money last month, no money last week, no money yesterday. And this is not about, oh, Roland, you just want to get some money. Here's the deal. I can't hire more reporters. Do y'all know I would love to have 1 or 2 reporters whose sole job is to cover the 58 members of the Congressional Black Caucus? I can't afford it because then we can't get the advertising. But you know what I see? When I go to CBCF, I see all these companies spending money on parties. But are you supporting the Black-owned companies who are doing the work the other 364 days a week? What I'm trying to get everybody listening to understand is that we are never going to have robust Black-owned businesses as long as corporate America, these major brands, and the ad agencies are freezing us out of the $322 billion being spent annually. You are the consumer. There are at least 8 or 10. Go through them real quick. So I spend money. Roland Martin spends his own money on Lay's, on Gatorade, on Quaker Oats, on Ruffles, on Cheetos, for my nieces and my other family members. That means that I, as an individual, am literally spending more money on an annual basis than what PepsiCo is spending with me and 5 other Black-owned media outlets. That literally makes no sense for a company with a $232 billion market cap. Scott Bolden, nothing changes if we stay silent. And people tell me, man, why you got to call these companies out? We did the right thing, Scott. We had the meetings. We put the presentations together. We showed capacity. We showed what we can do. We showed other clients that we've done it with. And they still literally ignore us.
Those numbers are incredible because we know that Black America is one of the largest group of consumers in the country. I think it's $1 trillion or $3 trillion or
no. It's 1.3 trillion. In 5 years, it's going to be 1.7 trillion. Go ahead.
Close enough. It makes the case. But you know, Roland, as I listen to your report, I'm sitting there thinking there's a lot of arrogance on the part of these companies.
Yep.
Because we don't make them spend with Black media because they almost presume that Black America as consumers and big consumers, they're going to buy our products anyway. They're not going to listen to this particular show and say, I'm going to stop buying those products, because Black people have gotten comfortable being in that consumer space. So on one hand, you're absolutely right. Anybody listening to your report would say, I agree with you. That's outrageous. Then as a strategist and as a lawyer, I would say, okay, so what's our leverage point? How do we compel compliance or compel just some leverage on making them spend more with Black media simply because Black people consume their products?
Well, Scott, I tweeted this out yesterday. I'd love to get your thoughts, Robert. I said there are two ways to impact these folks: class action lawsuit and boycott. If they don't want to do business with us, Dr. King literally told us this on April 3rd, 1968, that we must redistribute the pain. Robert?
Well, I think particularly with PepsiCo, we might need to be boycotting that in general because of diabetes and everything else and heart disease. I think we need to boycott a lot of those products just off top. But you're completely correct, Roland, and we have to start exercising economic power. Not only should we be looking to divest from people who don't invest with us, but we need to be investing in Black-owned businesses within our own community to grow them to such a size that they will be able to have the capacity to invest into Black media. You have to create an entire circle, entire ecosystem around this. There are plenty of Black-owned soda companies in this country, small mom-and-pop shops that you can order on Etsy that would love to grow, and they would love to have the opportunity to have those dollars that we are giving to PepsiCo every year. There are plenty of potato chip companies around here that are made out of people's kitchens and sold at farmers markets on the side of the road that would love to have the support of the Black community to get behind them. There's not enough simply to tell people who we aren't going to spend money with. We have to vote with our dollars and start supporting people in our own communities, grow those businesses up, and then we're able to create the economic system where we can support ourselves.
Go to my iPad. Rebecca, you get the final comment here. This is what Dr. King told us in his mountaintop speech, because too many of us focus on the mountaintop part, not what he said above. He said, we don't have to argue with anybody. We don't have to curse and go around acting bad with our words. We don't need any bricks and bottles. We don't need any Molotov cocktails. We just need to go around to these stores, into these massive industries in our country and say, God sent us by here to say to you that you're not treating his children right. And we've come by here to ask you to make the first item on your agenda fair treatment where God's children are concerned. Now, if you are not prepared to do that, we do have an agenda that we must follow, and our agenda calls for withdrawing economic support from you. Rebecca?
You know what, Roland? I'm thinking about in 2017 when PepsiCo decided to run an ad featuring a Black Lives Matter type rally, and it starred Kendall Jenner breaking up the crowd in the rally and bringing peace because she was drinking a can of Pepsi. And as far as I know, I never heard of that particular agency that decided that was a good idea to run that type of ad. I haven't heard that PepsiCo fired that agency and decided to actually work with inclusive agencies that would have known that wasn't a good idea. So I would say that PepsiCo has a history, and they need to prove that they care about their consumers, that they care about their Black consumers, and not just keep doing business as usual, because it simply isn't working.
My last point here, I need Black board members to also be far more aggressive. Yeah. Being on the board is not just you collecting a check or getting stock options. It's you being a voice there. John H. Johnson and Earl Graves and others did not fight to increase more Black people on boards of directors for those African Americans to get paid while other Black folks do not. There's a collective call that you must be involved with, and Dr. King in that same speech talked about when we as Black people move as a collective. And so, PepsiCo, I would love to hear from you. So would Black Enterprise, so would Urban One, so would the NNPA, so would Rolling Out, so would other Black-owned media. But let me be perfectly clear. Do not think for a second that I'm going to stop just with PepsiCo. I'm going to use this platform and use this voice to call out ad agencies and companies by name who refuse to do business with us. Dr. King made it perfectly clear that's what we're supposed to do, and I can guarantee you I'm not going to stop. Joining me right now is South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn. Glad to have him on the show. Congressman, before we talk about the House deal, I do have to ask you what I just talked about. Look, you met your late wife, Emily, in jail. You were out there fighting a good fight for civil rights and economic inclusion. How shameful is it that here we sit, look, you're 83 years old, I'm 54, turned 55 in November. Here we sit in 2023, and we literally are still talking about trying to get more than 0.5% 0.1% or 1% of these companies that do business in our community, but then don't want to do business with us, like PepsiCo?
Well, I want to thank you very much for your approach to this, Roland. You are raising an issue, as you said in your presentation. It's not new. You've quoted pretty extensively from Dr. King, who raised these issues way back in the 60s. He talked about being able to sit down at a lunch counter, but being able to purchase the hamburger or whatever you're sitting down there for. That said to me way back then that our focus had to be more than the social side. The economics of this is very, very important. I want you to be able to support the Congressional Black Caucus, its foundation, its institute, its PAC, and its members. And as you said, you do that when you are able to get a good return on the investment you've made in Black Star and the investment you continue to make. And the only way that can be done is for those products that we consume, the manufacturer of those products, to be spending equitably in the African American community. Now, I use that word equitably because that's the word I want to use. I'm not talking about equality here. I'm talking about equity. And that's what we have to focus on.
That's it. That's it.
Equity.
That's it. You're absolutely right. And that's and the thing here, Congressman, look, people need to understand, you and I talk about this on the federal level. The federal government spends $1 billion on advertising, and the same thing as well. When President Joe Biden talked about last year increasing Black contracts, you and I talked about it as well. So for everybody to understand, I'm talking about increasing Black-owned bid contracts in the government, in the private sector, all over, and it's ridiculous when we look at these small, paltry numbers, and that's why during COVID, 41% of Black-owned businesses went out of business, because out of 2.6 million Black-owned businesses, 2.5 million had just one employee. And people talk about access to capital. Here's the deal. I don't have any debt. I have no debt. I don't owe anybody. So I don't need access to capital. I need contracts. If I get contracts, I now got capital.
Absolutely. And that's how money turns over. In the African American community, it's got to get there first.
Yep.
You can't turn it over 4, 5, 6, or even 7 times unless it gets there in the beginning. And when it doesn't get there, there's nothing to turn over. And so all of the businesses that we have in the African American community, from private to public, they rely upon these dollars getting into the pipeline to begin with. And that's where we are lacking tremendously. And we in the Congressional Black Caucus Institute are beginning to focus a little more on that. And I think you're going to see much more focus in the not too distant future.
Absolutely.
Because we've got to.
Absolutely. And look, when I met with the Senate Democrats, I told them they need to be having a congressional hearing calling these ad agencies to the meeting. And I'm talking about Dentsu, Group M, WPP, all of them, to question them on their lack of advertising. Because I'm telling you, we're getting screwed by these agencies. But the brands, I told them, it's your money you're sending them. So y'all should be doing more as well. And so we're definitely going to continue that. When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.